I just want to bring you some sad breaking news now, and that is that the actress Diane Keaton has died at the age of 79. This is being reported by People magazine. She was famous for her roles in as Annie Hall in The Godfather and Something's Gotta Give.
Diane Keaton, Hollywood's most beloved eccentric, was found unresponsive at 79, and the silence that followed was deafening. The LA Fire Department confirmed they responded to her Brentwood mansion on October 11th, transported a woman of her age to the hospital, and that was the last anyone heard officially. No cause given, no statement from the family, just a single line confirming she passed in California. For a woman who lived publicly for 5 decades, laughing on red carpets, joking in interviews, dancing at fashion shows, her end arrived behind closed doors, behind a locked gate, behind a curtain nobody saw coming.
Life, I have that. Do you have that? The problem of the memory? That's what I just asked you. Do you remember me asking you that? I just said it a second ago.
You said the thing of what?
Yeah.
The problem, yeah?
Yeah, of remembering.
Of the memory.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's just it.
And then what did you say? There was nothing. I was
There was
waiting.
nothing? It was you waiting for an answer?
It was just that question.
No, yeah, that's the question.
What makes it all the more surreal is how recently we saw her beaming in public. She wasn't retired. She wasn't sick, at least not publicly. In fact, just last fall, she was promoting a new book, Fashion First. Still showing up to events in her signature suits and belts. Still charming Instagram with captions full of awkward wit and candid photos. Her social media presence, normally quirky and energetic, went dark in August. No new posts, no explanations, just silence. Friends told People they were stunned by how thin she looked in the weeks before. One described her final visit as haunting, thin, quiet, and distant. She'd lost so much weight, said longtime friend Carol Bayer-Sager. For someone who once lit up every room she entered, insiders now say she'd quietly started disappearing from them. So what happened between the laughter and the silence? The timeline starts in January, when her Brentwood home, an architectural gem she once described as her forever house, was damaged during the LA wildfires. Reports say Keaton relocated to Palm Springs for several months to oversee cleaning and repairs. She reportedly loved the desert, but the move was temporary. Friends say she spent long stretches alone, then returned to Brentwood in early fall looking frail but upbeat. She was happy, still taking photos, still talking about new ideas, said one source, but they also noticed something off. She wasn't posting. She wasn't showing up to her weekly movie group, and when she did, she was quieter than usual. Something had changed, one close friend told People. She insisted she was fine, but we knew.
What do you think? I mean, swear to God, I'm the only person in the world who wears this hat.
I know,
And,
but that's why we love
I don't understand
you.
why I can't sell it. Do you know what I mean? No one ever wears it, and I'm beginning to think I'm odd.
The decline was fast, and it didn't match the image she had so carefully maintained. This wasn't a recluse fading away. This was a woman who just months before had recorded a holiday single, First Christmas, and burst into tears mid-performance, who still appeared at runway shows in her signature hats, drink in hand, dancing like nobody was watching. She wasn't hiding from the world until suddenly and when we look at the pattern, the months of retreat, the sudden quiet, the secrecy around the house, questions start piling up. Behind the charm, there was controversy. Keaton's career wasn't all applause and accolades. Her decades-long loyalty to Woody Allen remained one of the most divisive aspects of her public image. Even during the height of the Me Too movement, she refused to distance herself. "Woody Allen is my friend and I continue to believe him," she tweeted in 2018, linking to a decades-old interview that supporters said proved nothing. The backlash was swift. Reddit threads lit up. Entertainment outlets asked why she was defending a man who had been accused multiple times of disturbing behavior. Allen has always denied those accusations, but the stain never lifted, and Keaton's refusal to flinch drew sharp criticism. To some, it was loyalty. To others, it was complicity.
It's the greatest thing that ever happened to Warren.
It is. There's no doubt.
No doubt. Yeah, well, you know, Warren is just this kind of extraordinary maverick. I mean, I'll never really understand Warren at all. I mean, Warren is somebody who, he has such an incredible mind, and it's all over. It's just try and catch it. You know, where is he? It's just like to try and get him to kind of go. It's very hard, and it's.
Industry insiders say that moment marked a turning point. Invitations slowed, interviewers tiptoed, younger stars began quietly distancing themselves, the red carpets grew fewer, the interviews shorter, the friends more cautious. She was still working, but the glow had dimmed. And while she never publicly acknowledged the fallout, her social circle reportedly tightened. A former publicist familiar with Keaton's later years told us, "She didn't lose everyone, but some doors closed. There's no question." Which makes the final days even more unsettling, because by October, that Brentwood mansion, newly restored, camera-ready, featured in magazines, was no longer just a home. It had become the site of something much murkier. According to the LA Fire Department, the call came in at 8 p.m., but sources familiar with the property say that responders were already nearby, allegedly notified in advance. That detail has yet to be confirmed, but it's fueling talk that something about the timeline doesn't add up. Why would a 79-year-old woman who had no known medical condition need that kind of early response? Why was the home sealed so quickly? Why were even longtime friends turned away?
And at a certain point, you're not going to have a chance to be anything but a victim of love. And so, I sort of forged ahead. And I feel like I'm not a victim of that particular kind of love.
And in fact, you feel...
And I also think that love the expectations are just, beyond anything that's possibly in the realm of...
The family's response was equally opaque. A short statement through People confirmed her passing and requested privacy. No further details, no follow-up. According to one associate, the request for discretion went out to major media outlets within hours before any obituary, before any autopsy. A move insiders say is rare unless there's something delicate to manage. Whether that means health issues, personal matters, or unresolved legal questions isn't clear. But the silence has created a vacuum, and in Hollywood, vacuums get filled with whispers. Whispers like the one claiming a private recording exists, made by Keaton herself just days before her passing. Some say it was a farewell message, others say it was more of a confession. Either way, it hasn't been released, and even close collaborators haven't heard it. According to one film executive who worked with Keaton in recent years, if it exists, it's being buried. Someone's making sure it never sees the light of day. When asked why, the executive declined to elaborate. Meanwhile, new attention is being paid to her final real estate moves. That Brentwood mansion, once a public symbol of her love for architecture, memory, and design, was quietly listed for sale in early spring. No press release, no fanfare. It sold fast, and not to a celebrity buyer. According to property records, it was transferred to a private trust with no public-facing ties to the entertainment industry. The speed of the sale, combined with Keaton's sudden withdrawal from public life, has only added to speculation that she may have been preparing for something.
I got lucky because I worked on my personality. Can you tell? It's so special.
It is. That's exactly why you're special, because you just said
I worked
that.
hard on that. You know, that's what I majored in.
Yeah.
And then there's the matter of her health. Carol Bayer-Sager, who had known Keaton for decades, told People she was shocked by how much weight the actress had lost in the final weeks. She had lost so much weight, Sager said. I was stunned. Others close to her say she began canceling casual dinners, skipping get-togethers, ignoring texts. Her final Instagram post, dated months earlier, now reads like a ghost town. Bright photos, cheerful tone, and then nothing. According to one fashion insider who saw her at a runway show in early 2025, she looked fabulous but tired. Her energy wasn't the same. We didn't think much of it at the time, but now... And then there's Woody Allen. His tribute, published in the Free Press, called her unlike anyone the planet has experienced or is unlikely to ever see again. But what caught attention wasn't what he said, it was what he didn't. No mention of speaking to her recently, no hint that he knew anything was wrong. According to a source close to Allen's team, he was blindsided. He didn't know she was unwell, the source said. Was completely caught off guard. And if he, someone she publicly defended through some of the most controversial years of his life, was left out of the loop, what does that say about the rest of her final weeks?
I just wish that I had tried harder and taken advantage of some of the opportunities that came my way. I think I was too afraid, too frightened by it all. Now I wish I'd worked harder and stuck myself out a little bit more and experienced people more instead of protecting myself. I spent
More concerning is what came next. Multiple outlets report that access to Keaton's estate has been restricted even posthumously. Former collaborators say they've been unable to obtain personal items or unfinished materials that were once promised. One photographer who worked with her on Fashion First says a planned follow-up book was in the works, but now appears canceled without explanation. We had everything mapped out, they told us. Then suddenly, nothing. Total radio silence. And that was before the news broke. Meanwhile, SAG-AFTRA, the Academy, and Paramount have all issued tributes praising Keaton's impact, her authenticity, and her singular legacy. But behind those glowing statements, there's unease. Because despite being beloved for decades, Diane Keaton's final months were marked not by celebration, but withdrawal. Not by red carpets, but private exits. Not by open doors, but locked ones. The question we keep circling back to isn't just what happened, but why the silence, why the quick media control, why the secrecy around a woman who is never afraid to be odd, loud, or defiantly herself. And what, if anything, was in that final message? Because if it was just a farewell, why hasn't it been shared? And if it was something more...
I always take roles, of course, because that's my primary, means of expression. But yeah, I'll do that, but not now, because I don't have time right now. I can't.
To direct?
No, I have 2 children. I can't do that.
You can't direct when you have 2 children?
No, not at this age, no. I don't think so.
When the news broke, Hollywood mourned, but insiders whispered about what wasn't said. The family's official statement lasted only a sentence, carefully worded and devoid of any emotional detail. There are no further details available at this time, and her family has asked for privacy in this moment of great sadness. And then, silence. No public memorial, no open tribute, not even a hint of what might follow. Within hours, her Brentwood mansion was sealed. Locked gates, no access, not even for friends. Was it grief or damage control? That same week, Woody Allen released his essay. Titled like a eulogy, but written like a memoir, it praised Diane Keaton as unlike anyone the planet has experienced. But critics didn't miss the timing or the tone. Allen's words didn't just mourn her, they reframed their decades-long connection, casting it in a softer, more flattering light. He called her his greatest inspiration, said he made movies for an audience of one. But as one former studio executive pointed out, the piece landed more like a defense of himself than a tribute to her. It blurred the line between legacy and leverage, they said. It was as much about preserving his name as honoring hers. Within days, industry blogs were debating whether Allen's essay had softened public perception or hijacked the final chapter of her story. That too points back to Keaton's own obsession with narrative. She wasn't just a performer, she was a curator. From her architecture books to her famously unstyled Instagram, everything was filtered through her lens, controlled, arranged, deliberate. She styled herself, edited her own coffee table collections, restored homes brick by brick. Her Brentwood estate wasn't just a house, it was an autobiography in wood and stone. She once said she would never sell it. So when that same house became the place she passed, and then was instantly sealed, it felt less like coincidence and more like choreography.
I don't think it's necessary, but ideally, sure. I think that a daughter should have a father in a perfect world. I mean, I think it's totally important. I keep looking for male figures to be her friend, to love her, and she does have some. And I think that it would be great if she had a father, of course. And I'm sorry I'm not married in that sense. I'm not sorry I'm not married in other aspects.
Insiders close to the estate claim she left specific instructions in her final months. She wanted to control her ending, said one source familiar with the household. Another went further. She didn't want anyone to see her that way. Not her kids, not her friends, nobody. Whether those quotes reflect her actual wishes or just industry gossip, they reveal a deeper tension. One between the public Diane Keaton and the private woman who, despite her open laughter and quirky charm, never fully let the curtain drop. She'd hinted at this before. Her battle with bulimia in the 1970s was something she only spoke about decades later, long after the spotlight had shifted. I became a master at hiding, she once admitted, and she meant it, literally. She detailed how she'd structured her days around secret rituals, not because she didn't want help, but because she wanted control. Even during interviews, she'd mock herself before anyone else could. Deflection as armor, humor as a mask. The woman America thought they knew was often 2 steps ahead of them, narrating her own vulnerabilities before anyone could question them.
I mean, it occurred to me from the age 39 on, and why it occurred to me that late is already a problem. I mean, I wish that it had occurred to me when I was like 25, but I came to it when I came to it, and look, I was a slow developer.
Do you like being a mother?
I love it, sure.
You do?
That pattern may have resurfaced in her final year. In January, she left LA for Palm Springs after fire damage to her home, but according to a longtime acquaintance, she could have stayed anywhere. She chose isolation. Friends say she became harder to reach, her social media froze, her movie group text thread, once constant, went quiet. By summer, she was back in LA but declining invites, skipping events, and brushing off concern. He said she was just focused on writing, one person recalled. But we could tell something was different. The timing matters, because around the same period, she began quietly offloading responsibilities. Her house was prepped for sale, even though she just finished restoring it. She withdrew from projects, and then, most chillingly, she recorded what multiple insiders now refer to as a private message. None of them have heard it. No one will confirm where it is, but 2 separate sources use the same phrase, final statement. One speculated it was like a will but emotional. The other suggested it was a goodbye or a warning. The existence of that message, still unreleased, has only added fuel to the mystery. Was it a farewell, a confession, a clarification of her legacy? One thing is certain, if it was meant to be heard, someone's holding it back. And that raises even more uncomfortable questions, because if she took such care to disappear from public life, to tightly control who knew what, and to ensure no photos, leaks, or hospital sightings emerged, then maybe the mystery wasn't accidental. Maybe it was engineered. Friends say she feared decline more than passing, not the end, but the erosion. One of her former assistants described her as obsessed with dignity. Another pointed to her 2019 interview where she joked, "I haven't learned anything, but I know how I want to be remembered." That offhand comment now sounds more loaded, perhaps even prophetic, because despite decades of openness, Diane Keaton never really gave us the raw footage. Only what she edited herself. That final control over her home, her legacy, her final image mirrors the career she built. She was never the polished starlet. She was the icon in oversized belts, the leading lady who didn't chase perfection. But behind that persona was a relentless architect, crafting, preserving, shielding. We watched her cry in Something's Gotta Give, watched her fumble through romantic scenes with self-deprecating charm. But off camera, she was guarding something deeper. And maybe in those final months, she decided the only way to preserve that truth was to vanish on her own terms.
Why do you think you're never married?
I think that I never married because I didn't want to get married. I didn't choose to get married. I
didn't need to get married.
And I didn't, the people that I was with, it was best that we were not married. I think I did the right thing.
Because in the end, even her closest friends were left out. Jane Fonda and Bette Midler reportedly hadn't spoken to her in weeks. One member of her old movie club told us they only found out when they saw the news ticker on TMZ. She ghosted the world, they said, and I think she wanted to. That's not typical behavior for someone slipping away. That's someone scripting their exit. The clues were there if we were willing to look. A lifetime of curation, a home-turned fortress, a message no one has heard, and a silence so loud it echoes louder than applause. She built a career on being authentic, but in the end, every trace of Diane Keaton was carefully erased. So what was she really protecting? Her image, her secrets, or her story itself? We want to hear what you think. Was this a private tragedy or a meticulously planned vanishing act? Drop your theories below. We're watching the comments. Until next time, stay curious and stay sharp.